Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. I'm so glad to be with you and to have another incredible guest on today's episode. As you know, these episodes and this podcast is brought to you by my company, Moxie Pest Control of Arizona. We are growing and expanding as many of you are growing and expanding. The last couple of years, we're very fortunate they've been really good to us. One of the ways that we have been growing, it's all the same way that you've been doing it with direct mailers, SEO, PPC, local service ads, the list goes on and on and on. But we have had a lot of luck and a lot of success growing via acquisition. We are finding, especially in Arizona, with 1,000 plus pest control companies out there, that many people, and I field these calls, I'm not kidding you, I field calls every single day that people have just done it for 20, 30 years. And they're tired of it. I joke with people that the perfect business has been thought of as a business without customers or employees. And I have yet to find somebody that's got that perfect business out there. But sometimes business owners, they just, they've had enough and they've done it long enough and they're looking to be able to golf more and work less. The last deal that we did it was probably, only about 30 days or so ago. And this was a little bit of a smaller company. But the gentleman, it went very, very smoothly. And the gentleman that we did it with had no idea that we were, the money that we were paying and the top dollar that we're paying. So if you're out there, we're also doing a lot of acquisitions and buying and growing in Cincinnati, Columbus, Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, Minnesota. Feel free to reach out to me directly. You can do that on my cell. It's 480-254-9730. You can also email me directly. It's aclark, ACLARK at moxiepestcontrol.com. And so would definitely love to have any of those introductions. The other plug that I wanted to put in, those of you that are familiar with the author Michael E. Gerber and his wonderful, wonderful, wonderful foundational business book, The E-Myth. He and I have been co-authoring the last 2 years, the E-Myth Pest Control Business. And it's done, finally. And so he and I were launching it together in Phoenix Thursday evening, November 3rd. And our spots are filling up like crazy. We're not charging for it. It's something positive that I'm wanting to do for the industry. And for a lot of my network. But if that's something that you're interested in doing or participating in, you can get a hold of me the same way. Should be a really good night. Should be great for networking. Should be a lot of fun. So hope to see you there if that's something that you're interested in doing. Chad Frazen of Rise 25 is on today. He's been doing this forever. He's got tons of experience. He has interviewed hundreds and hundreds of CEOs and key people in key organizations and is definitely an expert in his space. Today, he and I are flipping the script, and he'll be interviewing me for a thought leadership episode. Chad, so glad to have you on. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing great, Austin. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, we have a number of things we're going to talk about today, but first, is there anything would you want to expand on maybe your book writing process? What went into that, and what can maybe readers expect once it comes out?
So a lot of people have asked me, hey, so you wrote a book, that's amazing. How was it? And I am not shying away from the truth of what that process was like for me personally. It will be the first and last book that I write or co-author. My strength is not in speaking or writing. Every single word that I scribbled out was painstakingly hard. And so I am more excited for it to be done. The thing that was incredible. So, imagine this, Chad, so Michael E. Gerber for me has been a mentor for probably well over a decade. And he became a humongous mentor to me far before I ever met him 2 or 2.5 or whatever years ago. And so, there was an opportunity to be able to do this with him in the industry that I'm a part of and that I love and care about and has been so good to me. And so it really was just good timing and, all of the rest of it. We're really excited to launch it. Michael will be here personally to be able to keynote it. And I think that I think that this will be a positive thing for anyone that is in the pest control industry or home service industry, and anyone that is a fan or has been influenced in any way by Michael and his work with the E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited. This could be a really neat opportunity to meet him if you'd like, or become a little more familiar and acquainted with him. And so should be a really, really great night.
One of my favorite book authors, his name is Jeff Pearlman, but he's written all sorts of great books, mainly about sports. And he says that writing a book is so incredibly painstaking. Like he wouldn't recommend it for anybody. And he's written, multiple bestsellers. What was it that was so hard about it for you?
Well, first, I think that if you want to become good at something or gain a competency in something, you need to do it a lot. I don't spend hardly any time writing, like at all. So I don't spend time necessarily thinking creatively outside of my businesses, if you will. I mean, I journal from time to time and do that kind of regularly. But when you are working inside of the constraints, and I mean constraints in a positive way. So, those that are familiar with the E-Myth, they know that it is a whimsical story of a person, Sarah, who opens a pie shop. It is. And it really describes each one of us that is a business owner that went from doing the technical work or working in the business to a more overarching forward-thinking work of being an entrepreneur. And, my background before I even became part of or had the opportunity to do the technical work, it was in sales. And so it has often been said that great salespeople, and I had some success doing that, they are terrible business owners. And I can attest to that and say that is true, at least in my experience. It is a completely different skill set to be good at selling something than it is to run a company. It's a completely different skill set to be an expert at the technical aspect of baking a pie than it is to run a company that sells pies. And so I think, some of the things that people could expect, this may let some people down. There's no secrets in this book. There's no proprietary information. There's no, there's really none of that. But I think that it'll walk people through a little bit of my story, which some of it is really good and great. And some of it isn't. Some of it, I tell some embarrassing stories that, hopefully some people can relate with in one way or another, and just kind of being a young, new entrepreneur and how things like taxes and accounting, and you don't get a lot of that training when you're out there in the field, or if you're baking pies, it's not something that you really think about until you've got to think about it. And so overall, it ought to be a good read. My whole goal with doing this project with Michael is that, look, if at the end of the year, there's a business owner out there, pest control space or not, home service space, whatever, or a manager or an employee that picks up this book and reads it, and they have $1 more left at the end of the year than they would have otherwise, if they sleep nicely through the night, one more night than they would have otherwise, or if they avoid a pitfall or two, then that would just make me feel real good, real warm, real fuzzy. And so that is entirely the primary purpose of this book, is to be able to give back to an industry that's been so good to me. And then to be able to do it, it's really humbling and an honor to be able to do it with someone like Michael E. Gerber, who has, more business experience in his pinky than I do in my entire body. And so that's what I didn't like. That's what some people, that's what you could expect. One of the things that was just a phenomenal experience is doing this with Michael the last 2 years. I mean, imagine that, right? And so that was a really good, and imagine having him be the one that's proofreading your work.
Yeah.
This is his name, his brand, his legacy that he's linking with somebody. And so you can imagine that I was given regular critical feedback of how to improve the material.
Yeah, sounds very interesting, and we'll look forward to it coming out. Hey, one of the topics I wanted to talk about with you today is your process for recruiting and hiring. Can you kind of how often would you say you guys are recruiting and or hiring at Moxie Pest Control?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It is definitely a hot topic right now. As I've been asked a similar question to that, I kind of go back to the pandemic. I mean, things were incredible for a decade. I mean, just everything going up, up and away. That all changed real quickly when the pandemic happened in, early February, March-ish of 2020. I think that there was a great sense of fear. No one knew what was going on. A lot of people hunkered down and froze things. No one knew if they were going to have jobs or if their service or company was going to be deemed essential or not. And so there was just so many unknowns. Well, that's happened, and a lot of people made it through it. A lot of people didn't in terms of business. And then you have, kind of 2021 that I'm kind of calling and into 2022, that's sort of like a post-pandemic type environment. And so, I turned 38 at the end of this month. And since I've been in business, if you will, I definitely remember 2007, 2008 to, that time. But our sales were just going up, up and away. I mean, that didn't seem to really affect us at that time. And people really saw a difference in their pocketbook. They saw a lot of people were losing their jobs. And I think that we're starting, I hope that we have what they're coining a soft landing. I hope that that's what happens in this instance. But I don't know. And I think that we're starting to see some of that start to happen in terms of interest rates going up. I think we're starting to see that happen in terms of, you see the headlines, tech companies are starting large layoffs, large downsizing, restructuring or reorganization, which is a fancy, more positively political word for you're going to get fired or whatever else. And so where I'm going with that is that what's different about this time is there seems to be so much money out there in the market and still so much demand for services, goods, whatever else, but so little labor that's interested in being able to frame that house or go service that job or go paint that building or whatever it might be. And I think with the interest rates starting to happen and just maybe some of that money running out, hopefully we can come to that soft landing. So my point in setting that up and getting into recruiting is that I'll speak for, my company, Moxie Pest Control of Arizona. Every single day we're hiring. And some of the changes that we've made since before the pandemic to now is, before the pandemic, we didn't have we were still hiring all the time, but it wasn't a thing to be able to put a job. If we had an opening or 3 openings or 5 openings, it was relatively simple for us to be able to put an ad out there and to have 100 applications come in inside of an hour before the end of the business day. And for us to kind of pick and choose and so it has definitely changed. We now have 2 full-time recruiters. And so as far as our resources go, we are probably spending 3 to 4 times the money, the budget to post on platforms such as Indeed or Monster or ZipRecruiter or whatever. We try to use all of them. I'm sure everyone else out there listening uses all of them too. And then we've definitely doubled down on our resources in terms of people and human capital that we're deploying to be able to screen resumes, do first interviews, do second interviews, onboarding, that sort of thing. And so we've tried to do the best that we can to be able to listen to current employees, past employees, candidates that are coming through, make some arrangements in terms of job flexibility and schedule, working from home, not working from home, those sorts of things. so that the job is, I wouldn't say simpler, but so that the job is more in line with what people are looking for anymore today. So we're always hiring. We post every day. We are screening hundreds of resumes every single day. We're doing dozens of interviews every single day. And this is, I mean, it's, I don't know when people will listen to it, to this, episode. It's October 3rd right now. And so in the pest control industry, this is normally a time where people are winding down and they probably are staffed up. They're going into the winter season. There's less calls to be able to, go do jobs or whatever. And so it kind of gets to be the off season. And we are not stopping. We've got a head full of steam, and we are hiring and preparing for our busy season next year. And we're constantly looking to be able to level up our talent, and to find better, more capable people. And that's nothing against the people that we have today. They're fantastic. They're hardworking. They're educated. They're doing a great job taking care of each other, taking care of our clients. But we're always looking for more, and looking for people that are A players that will allow us to grow and scale and service our clients, because the phones aren't stopping ringing. I mean, we have a lot of calls every day of people that saw a vehicle, saw an ad, found us on social, we were servicing the neighbor's place, whatever. And so there's a lot, it's against our nature to say, no, we're not taking on that business. I mean, we want to continue to grow. And the only thing that will stop us from doing that right now is having enough capable, qualified people to be able to service our customers.
So you said kind of before the pandemic, you'd post a job and hundreds of people would apply. Now you've got more dedicated recruiters. But you're still reviewing a lot of resumes and applications. How is it different for you to get those applications coming in maybe than it was when all you had to do was put it out there and then in the same day you'd get the applications in?
Yeah. So we still get a ton of, we don't get it when we post, we don't get as many now as we did then, but I think that the level of scrutiny is greater because what's coming in isn't necessarily up to our standards. So we're having to deploy a lot more resources to be able to find the candidates and find the employees and find the people that we really, really, really want to be a part of our team. And so that's kind of what I meant by that and how that's going. But I know it's something, in talking to other business leaders, I mean, I really think that, a lot of people's attitude is like, oh man, it's so hard. We could grow because we got all these calls coming in, but no one wants to work. I think that's not maybe the right attitude to have. I think maybe a more glasses half full and positive outlook is, hey, we as business owners and managers in these companies, we've got an opportunity that the market is saying something. And whether we agree with it or not, or like it or not, we can have this and use this as an opportunity to be able to make changes, to make adjustments, to market towards people that are, this may be their first job or second job, or, and so I think that if instead of, hey, poor us, we can't hire. Well, I think that if we would rewire ourselves mentally and psychologically to say, hey, things are different. What can we do now to find our ideal hire? Maybe our ideal hire hasn't changed so much. Maybe there's less of them. Maybe they're just swimming in a completely different pool than we're fishing in right now. And so I think that as we ask questions and position questions like that, what can we do? What more can we do? How can we, because they're out there. I mean, they didn't just disappear. They didn't all go, they're not all influencers in Europe posting on Instagram right now. So there's got to be some of them that are not influencers. But I think it's a great opportunity for us as business owners to kind of rephrase that question and not be so down about it and just go make it happen if that's what we want to do. Sure.
Very nice. Hey, what about sales or marketing? Has that changed for you? You said calls are still coming in. People still need pest control. What are you guys doing now on that front?
So those are definitely two different things. I'll talk about marketing first, and then maybe get into sales. So we at Moxie, we haven't changed our marketing strategy a whole ton. We are continuing to try to do the best that we can to meet our ideal customer where they are. And so whenever I get into marketing and sales, or marketing specifically with people, well, how do you grow? They'll ask, or where do you find them? Or are you doing Facebook ads? Or are you, whatever? None of that really matters until you identify your ideal customer. And so I'll speak from my experience, which is the pest control industry, but I don't think that the exercise is any different in any industry. You start with an avatar, and you can have more than one avatar. You could probably have 5, but who is like, what do they look like? Where do they shop? So we at Moxie in Arizona, our bread and butter is residential general pest control. So automatically that lets me know, or tells me that, look, can we do pest control in a commercial building or in a commercial space? Of course we can, because the process and technical work of actually doing pest control doesn't vary a whole bunch between taking care of this type of ant and the same type of ant at a single family home or in a restaurant. So those processes don't vary very much. And so, like, who is your ideal customer? What do they look like? Where do they shop? How much education do they have? Do they have college education? What is their disposable income? And so you want to start to put together different avatars. And then from there, I think that you can have your marketing strategy. And so I think kind of like I said, just really briefly at the beginning, marketing is casting a pretty broad net. I mean, if you're just starting out, I don't know that radio and billboards is the place for you to start. They're expensive. That's more of a brand awareness thing. And so, when you're starting out, getting paid is really what keeps the doors open and employees coming back because they're getting paychecks. But you have a great resource in marketing to your current customers. And so what goods or services do you provide? How many customers do you have? And then which of them are using what segments or what products that you offer? And then how can you market to them, whether it's an email or a text, or creating different lookalike groups in Facebook that tell you who your audience is and can find them much quicker and easier than you could on your own. So I would start with the avatar. And then from there, that will kind of help you to say, hey, if I'm me, for example, we are definitely looking to go after people that own homes, not own restaurants. Now, usually people that own restaurants, they usually own homes too. And that's where a lot of our commercial work has come from. We do such a good job at their home that they say, hey, I've got this bar, could you service it? Or I'm a dentist and I've got a dental practice, could you service it? And so, we say yes to some of those opportunities. But I think on the marketing perspective, it would serve everyone that's listening really well to start with your avatars, understand their behaviors, meet them where they are. There's a humongously different demographic that uses Facebook versus Instagram. You know what I mean? And so if you have determined that your ideal customer or one of your avatars is on Instagram, it would probably be a mistake to advertise or market on Facebook first. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. Some people have both, but you're going to get a little bit of a younger crowd on Instagram than you would on Facebook. Sales is a real technical kind of thing, and I won't spend much time on that at all. But and if your marketing is really good, then your sales becomes more of a technical thing rather than needing an incredibly competent, amazing salesperson or 2 or 3 or 4. And so if your marketing is really fine-tuned, then really all you need in a salesperson is someone that's taking orders and processing paperwork. There's not a whole lot of salesmanship involved. And I don't mean that, and especially if any of my employees that work in our inside sales department or otherwise hear this, I'm not downplaying the importance of having incredible sales skills. It's really near and dear to my heart because it's kind of my background and I love it. And there is a tremendous amount of value that comes from being a expert salesperson, and the ability to influence people and to be able to explain features and benefits and to know how to resolve concerns and to know how to, either blow hot buttons up or, have people kind of see things in a way that helps them and satisfies the itch that they have. That's a very, very valuable skill. But if your marketing is dialed in, then sales is almost an afterthought. And so I would just, if you're, as it relates to sales, if you're a salesperson, focus on the fundamentals, focus on your ABCs, which is always be closing, focus on building value, focus on resolving concerns before they become concerns. And then some of the things that salespeople don't like to hear, but are very important, is then track everything. So you want to know how well you do on a lead that comes in on a Google form versus a lead that comes in from that's a referral from a customer versus one that comes in from the field. You know what I mean? And that is really valuable for your marketing people. If you're a salesperson and if you want better leads, track everything that your company is asking you to track, whether you think it's dumb or not, because they use that information, or at least responsible companies use that information to be able to fine-tune their marketing and invest more money and more resources in the leads that produce the very best. So there, I guess, is my 2 cents on sales and marketing.
Yeah, very good. Any tips in terms of sales for overcoming rejection, or is that not, or if you have good marketing, is that not that much of a factor anymore?
I think that good marketing will reduce that. I think that as a salesperson, you should become acclimated with rejection. It takes a certain kind of person to just keep going. And so I would take it back to a personal thing. Do things that are legal that make you uncomfortable. So if you don't do you know anyone, Chad, that loves going to the gym? Maybe we know a couple people, but
a few people.
Yeah. So but most people, that alarm goes off and they're like me this morning, I'm there's pretty much 37 other things that I would rather do besides go to the gym.
I like being done. I like being done with the gym more than I like going.
Everyone likes being done with the gym more than they like doing. And so my point with that is that you will start to build mental fortitude and toughness, if you will, by doing things like this gym example that you don't want to do. Most of my day, I'm doing things that I don't want to do, but they're designed to be able to push the company forward. They're designed to be able to help me become a better husband, a better father, a better, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But for example, I'm an introvert, and most people wouldn't get that from me because they usually see me either speaking or on a podcast. But I would definitely prefer, and this is no offense to you, Chad, you're wonderful. I would definitely prefer not doing this podcast. I would rather start to read this book that I got, from Ryan Holiday instead. But I know that this is a good thing because I know that people will hear it. I know that it will put a plug in there for the book launch. I know that will, if someone comes because they hear that, then they will have a chance to meet Michael Gerber. I think that it'll be a great networking opportunity. I think that there's some things that we've talked about already and some things that you've said, and maybe I've said too, that will have people rethinking their marketing or rethinking their sales or rethinking some of their hiring strategy. And so those are all good, positive things. So yeah, if you're a salesperson, get familiar with being uncomfortable. That's a good place to be. Just like in the gym, right? You're supposed to lift until failure, just about failure. That's when the muscle fibers tear, they can rebuild, and you can become stronger or increase your lung capacity, or whatever your gym goals are.
Hey, as we kind of wrap things up here, why don't we talk last about KPIs? Give me your perspective on KPIs with Moxie and key performance indicators in general.
Here is my thoughts on key performance indicators and numbers. Numbers are so important that God named a book in the Bible Numbers. So that's how important they are. You, as a business owner and as a manager and as a lead, you need to be tracking everything. You need to be tracking everything. And so this is a lot longer conversation. I mean, what is it that we're talking about here? Are we talking about key performance indicators or numbers inside of a contact center? Are we talking about key performance indicators inside of your sales department, your marketing department? I get an email that's probably 3 feet long. So you can imagine how long like that email is. And I get that every single day. And basically it is vitals for what went on in the company that day. And as our company's grown, I'm not as involved in the micro level as I used to be. I'm not in every department. We don't have 5 employees anymore. We have 125 employees. And so when we had 5 and I was one of them, it was really easy for me to sit in a room with everybody and understand what happened in the field and what happened in the office and what happened in our inside sales department. And now that's not quite as simple. And so I get a summary each day that reports to me on things that I want to know. And then I can take that information and cascade it and pass it to our field care manager or my contact center director. And there's about a dozen people copied on these emails, so they get them anyway. But it provides me an opportunity at least once a day to take the temperature of what happened. Hey, this number is higher than normal. This is a positive thing. Why did that happen? Did we spend a little bit more money yesterday? Is that why we had twice the amount of leads? Did that email campaign hit that we've been working on for the last month? Hey, we performed really terribly in this part of the company. Why the heck did that happen? Did people call out sick? Did our phones go down for an hour during the day? And so it provides me as a CEO and you out there that are listening as business leaders and business owners opportunities to have stewardship over your company and your numbers. And the I guess final thing that I would say about that is like, look, behind every number, we're talking about people. People is the business that Moxie is in. We use pest control as the industry and the vehicle to be able to execute our purpose, which is to improve the quality of life for our customers and our team and community. And so we know that we can move the needle every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year by looking at those numbers to be able to say, hey, this same day last year, this is how we did. This same week last year, this is how we did. And it helps us to, and you can go through that process for any time period that you want, but it allows you to understand different trends and helps you to be able to set goals. It helps you to be able to say, hey, we're really struggling here. What other resources can we put in this department to help it? What training do we need to provide on an individual basis and on a departmental basis? And so those numbers are really important. And so if you're not tracking them, start. There's no better time than the present.
Hey, Austin, it's been great to talk to you. I really appreciate you having me on and sharing your perspective. Thanks so much.
Hey, you got it. Thank you, Chad. Thanks, everybody. Create a great day. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.